Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Quesnel City Council meeting number 9 for Tuesday, April 22, and it's Earth Day today. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. We have regrets from Councillor Roodenburg. I'd like to recognize that we meet on the traditional territory of the LHTAKO DENE Nation. I'll be looking for a motion for approval of the agenda, and there is one addition, and that is under Council Information Package, item L1, and it's an update on the Quesnel Foundry, and that item has been brought forward by Councillor Roodenburg and also myself. So with that little change, could I get a motion to approve the agenda as circulated? Councillor Vic, Councillor Goulet, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Now we're looking for a motion to adopt the minutes of the last regular meeting held April 1, 2025. Mover, Councillor Elliott, you're moving? Councillor Runge, you're seconding? Sure. Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. We have no presentations, no delegations, no items arising from previous special closed meetings, no unfinished business, but fortunately we have a couple of committee reports, and the first one is April 3rd, 2025 Policy Bylaw Committee Chair Summary. Councillor Runge to report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm getting my voice ready because it's a few pages here. So my first question is, have you guys all read it? Because I've got a quiz coming up here. All righty, let's get going. So the first thing that we had to talk about and bring into, there was a time-sensitive electronic vote that happened prior to our March break, and it was for a property development proposal. And so we just had to bring this into the record, and it was the policy bylaw reviewed an original request for proposals, and we had to extend a date until June 1st, 2025. So that's just to bring it into our council here. The second thing that we talked about was our banner policy. There's a draft banner policy attached with a bunch of changes, hopefully to make it to update it a little bit. So the Policy and Bylaw Committee agreed to all the changes and added 2 additional recommendations. We want to change the title of permanent banners to long-term banners, and we add a copy to communicate that the banners will be taken down for cleaning once a year. So a little bit further on, the policy is there. All of the from pages 15 to page 18, I believe. So there are a lot of smaller changes there. One of them to change the costs of how we put banners up, so that we hope to save the city a little bit of money. And then if there's any new policy and new banners that want to go up to the city, that they have to go to the finance committee, so that the finance committee actually checks how much it will cost the city to put them up and down every year. And we'll have specific locations for short-term banners and other ones. So that's all in that policy. So hopefully you had a chance to look at it, because I do not want to go through it all word for word unless you guys want me to.
Okay, so you have, I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 resolutions to get on the table.
Yeah, so I will wait till, do you want to do them one at a time as we go through them?
One at a time.
So why don't we have the resolution to accept this changed banner policy that goes a little bit ahead there on pages, lordy. I got to look again, sorry. 15 to 19. So to accept the CCR 13 as changed here.
Well, your resolutions are outlined on page 13 and 14. There are 6 of them.
All right, let's go through the, you know what, let's go through all of it first in order, because there's a lot of stuff here. So we talked about the banner policy. I'll come back to that, sorry. Then we also talked about transit buses for special occasions. We reviewed the policy and came up with, there were no changes to that, but there will be a recommendation to follow. Then we looked at policy review IWC 17, the council committees and appointments policy. So that was moved and recommended to council. That will come also later. Then we looked at policy CCR 16, the little people fire hydrants. The policy discussed the policy and recommended no changes, but we agreed that a copy of this policy should be sent to the Quesnel Downtown Association for their files. And for me, something that I learned there was that we're kind of grandfathered in with our little people. The reason being that a lot of fire hydrants actually have different colors on them so that different fire crews know how much pressure is coming through the hydrants. So our fire people do, but if someone was coming from out of town, they may not know that. They would just know, we know them as our little people. Then we also had a flagpole discussion, and it was following last council's meeting and always coming up with smaller changes to ask for extra weeks on the to fly a flag. So the policy committee discussed the community flagpole policy and agreed to revise the current policy to add a little bit more flexibility and staff discretion for the duration of the time that the flag can be flown, so it doesn't have to come back to council for just small things like that. So let's go to the recommendations. So the first one is the time-sensitive electronic vote property development proposal. We recommend to council that staff reissue a request for proposals for the city property on Neighbor Road to facilitate the development of a multi-housing development. Proposals will be brought to council for final approval of disposition, and that the Policy and Bylaw Committee extends the request for proposals due date to June 1st, 2025.
Okay, so you're moving that, and Councillor Vic is seconding. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
All right. And then now, policy review, CCR 13, the banner policy, that the Policy and Bylaw Committee recommend to Quesnel City Council that the revised CCR 13 banner policy be accepted.
Okay, thank you for that. Seconded by Councillor Goulet. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
That was quick. All right. Then moving on to CCR 18, the use of transit buses for special occasions, that we recommend to council. The CCR 18 use of transit buses for special occasions get carried with no requested changes.
So we still need a motion, even though there are
Yes.
no changes. We're just basically ratifying that. So that's moved by Councillor Runge, seconded by Councillor Vic. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
And just for the record, we go through our policies every 5 years to try to keep them up to date, and that's why this has to happen. Then policy review, IWC 17, council committees and appointments policy, that the Policy and Bylaw Committee recommend to Quesnel City Council the revised IWC 17 council committees and appointment policies. Moved by Runge.
Okay, thank you for moving that. Seconded by Councillor Vic. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
All right, and then policy CCR 16, little people fire hydrants, that the Policy and Bylaw Committee recommend to Quesnel City Council that CCR 16, little people fire hydrants policy get moved with no requested changes.
Okay, thank you. You're seconding Councillor Roodenburg. I don't know where we're going to Roodenburg from. Councillor McKelvey, you're seconding. Okay, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. One more.
And finally, the flagpole that Policy and Bylaw Committee recommend to City Council the revised CCR 17 community flagpole policy as listed here.
Okay, moved by Councillor Runge, seconded by Councillor Goulet. Any discussion? Councillor Elliott.
First of all, thanks for all your hard work on these. Holy, but just it doesn't look like there's substantive changes to the flagpole policy. It will come back to Director Norburn if someone requests a month. Is that what I'm understanding? We're recommending that it can only be 2 weeks, or that's what the policy states, but they can still request up to a month. Correct. Thank you.
Okay, and did I get a seconder for that yet? Okay, then I'm going to call question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Does that conclude your report, Councillor Runge?
Well, the only other thing is that there will be no meeting on April 24th. The next meeting will be a little bit further into the future.
Okie dokie. All right, so now I will go back to Councillor Runge for his report on the Accessibility Committee meeting held April 9.
All righty. Well, thank you. Thanks for allowing me to report again. Anyway, so as you guys know, I'm sitting on the Accessibility Committee meeting where I realized that, during budget time, I didn't request extra money. It was a good thing we had some still in the account, because otherwise I'd be, begging with a hat in my hand here, and I'm the guy who always asks for you to spend less money. Anyway, the purpose of this report is to provide council with highlights from the most recent Accessibility Committee that was held on April 9th. And we had the pleasure of having Derek, so we talked about the snow removal policy, and we had the pleasure of having Derek Kitamura, Director of Public Works, introduced to the committee, and they talked about, how they prioritize roads, sidewalk, laneways, and bus stops. And so I just listed some of the recommendations from the Accessibility Committee just to have as future consideration while Derek was updating the policy. Just as, hey, can you think about this? And one was prioritizing high traffic areas and with an eye on mobility concerns, and attention to and priority to clearing covered and sheltered bus stops. And also the importance of partial snow clearing from residential driveway entrances was brought up by our illustrious mayor to make sure that was put in. So that was accepted by all the people there. Also, we just talked about an early morning sidewalk cleaning in the downtown core, so that, as the snow gets removed, prior to the businesses opening, it's already all clear and gone. So it was just a discussion point. And then finally, clearing of the ramps from the marked disability parking spots, and, as you get from the parking spot up to the sidewalk, that's clear, because sometimes, the city businesses will clear their snow, but that little ramp is then not cleared, and then someone with a wheelchair would have a very difficult time getting up. We also talked about Accessibility Week, which is coming up shortly, and so we looked at modifying the 2024 Accessibility Committee survey to include fewer open-ended questions, more identifier questions, and with the intention to further collect and build on the data so that we can see how things are going, and we can say, hey, are we making a change actually with the Accessibility Committee, or are we just spinning our wheel? And so the intention is to host a booth at Spirit Square during Accessibility Week. And to also participate on the 4th Annual Children's Festival at Laborde Park on May 31st as an alternate location, also, once again, encouraging completion of this survey. And the Quesnel Self-Advocates are hoping, while they're at the festival, to also promote the Amazing Race for Inclusion, which I'll talk about shortly. So we had a few action points, and you see the draft survey on pages 35 and 36. So we were also to contact with regards to acquiring the date, setup, and participation for the Accessibility Committee on May 31st. And our budget, I talked about already. And the intention from a lot of the people there was to create a little bit more of an engaging environment and have possibly some obstacle courses and other things there to promote the Amazing Race to Inclusion. I'm going to first go to the Amazing Race. So I'm a little bit out of order here, because in October, the Quesnel Self-Advocates would like to host a race, the Amazing Race to Inclusion event that is planned to be run in October. The event will be an opportunity to connect all challengers with all sorts of abilities to a series of obstacle courses, challenges, team building activities that highlight inclusion. The event is in the early stages of planning, and we'll hopefully hear a little bit more here. And they're going to try to get us to have a City of Quesnel team or any other stakeholder team from the community to be involved. Now I'll jump back to the roundtable, because that's we always have roundtable discussions at the Accessibility Committee. One of the an issue that came up, which we already have been talking about, and I think comes up later, is, it was a healthcare staffing, and it came up from some of the folks at the committee, with a lack of some of the physicians, and in both the city, the region, the province, they were having difficulty having prescriptions filled, difficulty or inabilities of some groups to see in person or a virtual doctor for long periods of time. And so what we came up with out of that was that maybe there's a way for us because we have various different groups at the accessibility committee, that they agreed to share contacts and resources to ensure that information that's available is accessible to all of the community. So that was a great way to come around there. And then just an FYI, GR Baker is currently having their elevators repaired, so you just have to bear with them as they're waiting for parts, and sometimes you have to find a different way to get upstairs as they're working on it. So they apologize for the disruption. And at the end, because we do have community groups come in, we have a guest input, and just so we had the accessibility committee open talk to the committee to hear and discuss input from guests. I'm sorry, I stumbled over that one. We opened this guest input, and from this month we had the accessibility committee, and they had a representation where they informed the committee about a letter that was being drafted to community grocery stores. The letter intended to communicate the need for signage at registers that indicates that there is assistance available for bagging for people that want assistance. So sometimes in a wheelchair we don't think about it, but the signs might be totally at the wrong place, and they don't even, and they just have to know that they can ask for help. So the accessibility committee shared, if needed. We wanted to share this and with all the business associations, and just thought it might be a good point to contact all of our BIAs and to see how they could possibly support some of the accessibility committee members that have these issues. There's no recommendations, and the next meeting will be after our accessibility week.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Runge. Any questions from council on that report?
I guess my question to council, though, is that if you have any my question to council is if you have any suggestions to the accessibility committee survey, just let me know so we can adjust it. We're trying to create a survey that we can use going forward that tracks things from year to year.
Okay, no further questions, and we'll move to committee or council reports, and I have two of them. Item number one is March 2021 CRD board highlights. March 20th was a committee of the whole, and March 21 was a regular board meeting. The number one item, or the first item in the report, is regarding the CRD's discussions around carriage houses, and the board directed staff to prepare bylaw amendments to increase the flexibility in what is classified as a carriage house by, 1, allowing for standalone carriage houses instead of requiring them to be attached. Number 2, increasing the allowable building height to align with municipal bylaws. Number 3, permit carriage houses to be built as 2-story buildings. And number 4, restrict carriage houses to a minimum allowable width of 6.1 meters to ensure that there is not a proliferation of single-wide manufactured homes. There was also discussion on the board debated the use of $9 million in available community works funding. Water and sewer fees were approved for 2025, and there's quite an extensive list there. I think there's about 16 of them. 16 for water and sewer that have been approved. The Quesnel Fringe Fire Protection tax hit is lessened by the Community Works Fund, and this is interesting, because these funds will reduce the annual taxation impact on the project from $59, or let's call it $60 per 100,000 assessed value to 48 and change per 100,000 of assessed value. A request for proposals recently closed for architectural design services, and once a contract is awarded, construction-ready drawings can be placed. So that basically concludes my report. Do I need a motion for exception of that, or no? We're good to go. Any questions? Councillor Elliott.
Excuse me. Thank you for this. Just on the first page of the board highlights there at the bottom paragraph, it says that secondary dwellings are permitted only on lots larger than 4 hectares. Is that a misprint?
No, that's not a misprint, and I think they're working to. Yeah, there was. Yeah, that's. I don't believe that. I remember that discussion. So, board has directed staff to prepare bylaws to make following changes to secondary dwellings, and I thought that. No, it's that's only with regard to the permitted total floor area. No, I don't know the answer to that.
That's okay. My intention was not to put you on the spot, but if we're trying to create more housing in the area, only allowing it on more than 4 hectares doesn't make any sense to me. But maybe
I'll get back to you on that.
I'd appreciate that,
Sure.
Mr. Mayor. And finally, on page 39, and down at the bottom, we've got electoral area D. Director asked to have a survey of residents on dog control services. I'm curious why it's just in the one location. Why wouldn't they do it for every area up here?
Because it was one director that wanted it in his area.
And no one else brought it up for their areas?
Well, he brought it up for his area.
Okay.
I really don't think that's going to get any legs personally, but we'll see what happens.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Runge.
So, Councillor Elliott, I think your 4 hectares are just because that's for lands in the ALR.
Yeah, I think that answers it. ALR. Okay, so, but I will check that out on the 4 hectare. One more, I'm just making a little note to myself. Okay, so that basically concludes my report. If there's no more questions, I'll move over to the next report, and that is my attendance at the 20th Annual Council of Forest Industries Convention in Prince George. There were 650 delegates in the room, including 40 speakers, which included Premier Eby and Forest Minister Parmar, plus more than 60 sponsors and trade show exhibitors, all under the theme banner of Where Do We Stand? Strategies for Competitiveness and Sustainability. The BC timber sales is being exhaustively studied and reviewed, and I'd like for us to, I'm going to go through it and maybe with the city manager to see if there's any opportunities in that document change that we may be able to capitalize on. Forest Minister Parmar, advising of a new provincial forestry advisory panel, spawned an idea of our own local area forest industry advisory group, either separate or through our Forest Innovation Center or Three Rivers Community Forest or the think tank. Just food for thought. There was repeated mention around the need for smaller, specialized, and portable in-the-field mills. Then there was a quote that popped up that I made a note of, and that is, quote, "The right log to the right mill at the right time for the right price." Also worth exploring is future potential of vacant, albeit privately owned, mill space in our area. I sort of put down a list of possible uses: modular, mass timber, engineered timber, tiny homes, prefab accessory dwelling units, value added, or whatever. Our upcoming visit, I'm going with a group of people from Quesnel to Shirawi, Japan, and also to South Korea in, I guess it's in July. And it brought to mind the fact that our sister city relationship with the town of Shirawi on the island of Hokkaido. Our 40-year relationship with Shirawi was founded on our industrial connections with Daishawa Marubeni, and this was through Cariboo pulp. We manufactured the pulp here and sent the pulp over to Japan, and they made paper out of it. And that sort of spawned the idea of, I guess, the question of should we, with others, explore renewed future business relationships potential. And there was a contact person that I'd like to get in touch with on that subject. I mean, it's obvious that we can no longer rely solely on the U.S. At the convention, former Premier Glenn Clark and former Forest Minister Pat Bell, way back in 2009, each stressed that we must look beyond our southern border to the Asia marketplace. I'm not going to go into a whole lot more detail other than to say that effective, proactive silviculture must be a priority. Yes, our expansive forest land base has been decimated by pine beetles, wildfires, climate change, drought, escalating transport costs, etc. But we still have that expansive forest land base, so we must capitalize on it by capturing usable fiber, thinning, replanting new resistant species, etc. And here's an interesting fact. Why in Alberta can burnt timber be permitted for harvest in 2 to 3 months, while in BC it takes 12 to 18 months. My concluding statement is boldly innovate outside the box. That's my report. So if anyone has any questions, go ahead, Councillor Runge.
Just out of curiosity, because there were a lot of forest businesses there, was there something that possibly came up again and again, or where communities can support them? Is there anything that we can do as a community with regards to a letter to the minister or anything like that? Did that ever come up in this?
It comes up a lot. In fact, I'll tell you a little story. When I first started going to Kofi, I noticed that the registration fees for local government officials was the same as it was for forestry executives. And I got in touch with the CAO of Kofi, and I said, Kofi really needs us local government people at the table. Can you give us a little bit of a break on our registration fee? Guess what? There is no registration fee, and they even pay the hotel. So there's a nice little bonus right there. So thank you to Kofi for that. So I obviously they value our participation and our input. So I think that there's a good relationship there. There was a lot of First Nations people there, but a lot of mayors and councillors and regional district directors at the Kofi conference, as there is usually. Anyone else? Okay, so we'll leave that one. Now I'm going to go to, one moment. No more questions on Kofi while I anxiously search my agenda here for the next item. Item K1, admin report 47/25, and this is the tax rate bylaw and the financial plan bylaw 1971 and 1972. I'm going to go to Director Bolton to report.
Sorry. Thank you. So this is a wrap of all the work we started last fall, and it comes all the way to this. And then here are the two bylaws that bring everything together, the 5-year financial plan bylaw and the City of Quesnel tax rate bylaw. So, of course, the Financial Sustainability and Audit Committee has reviewed and recommends both these bylaws to Council. So everything is in now. We've received all the tax rates from everyone else. We've received the final assessments. So the average residents in Quesnel will see an increase of $87.98 to the municipal tax portion of their property tax invoice, or $24.67 per 100,000. I also have in there kind of a summary of all the different tax rates, so you can see what the change for the average single-family residents across all the tax rates are, including school and the Cariboo Regional District and all that. So the recommendation is that council proceed with the first three readings of the City of Quesnel Financial Plan Bylaw number 1971 of 2025, and then the council proceed with the first three readings of the City of Quesnel Tax Rate Bylaw number 1972 of 2025.
Okay, thank you. Before I get to those resolutions, just a comment. I was thinking about what do we spend in our household on connectivity relative to internet and cell, et cetera, and I was absolutely surprised that it's not far less, or it's not much less than what we pay in taxes. So it's all relative. Is there any questions on the before we move to the motion? No?
Put it on the floor, Mr.
Oh, okay, so you're moving first, second, and third to bylaw 1971. Okay, Councillor Elliott, you're seconding. Any comments? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Okay, now we go to bylaw first, second, and third for bylaw 1972. Come on, somebody help me here. Councillor Elliott moving, seconding, Councillor Vic. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Before we leave this item, I just want to say that I don't think I missed one of the budget, the FSAC, the Finance Sustainability meetings, and this one, it really took some digging to get to where we got to. And I thank you and the committee, Councillor Vic, for your diligence and for your hard work on this, because it was a tough go. So thank you. Anyone else?
Sure.
Go ahead.
I'd just like to thank Director Bolton and her whole team too, because yeah, they worked very hard on this, so thank you.
Of course, we can never forget the staff, but we do remember them every 2 weeks, so. All right, so we're done with that one. Now we're going to go to Director Coben to report on report number 4625, 2025 paving and road repairs contract.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose is to approve the contract for 2025 asphalt paving and minor road restoration. Two proposals were received for the publicly posted request for proposals this spring and March 12th for paving within the city and capital operating budgets. The scope of work as part of this RFP includes new construction, overlay paving, volume patching, and utility patch repairs. The contract is for 1 calendar year with options to extend the contract with the same pricing for up to 2 additional years if mutually agreeable by both parties. It was a criteria-based, points-based proposal submission based on a number of factors, including company experience, quality of the team, quality controls, schedule and availability, and a work plan, as well as pricing. There was 2 received with some key differences to the proposals. They're all here in the summary, but some of the main ones was the one proposal, it only had 1 site visit proposed, which would be sometime in June or July, and basically for 1 season, where the other proposals was a little more for more mobilizations, basically in order to complete all of our patching during the calendar year. So even projects that we do later in the year, the contractor has availability to complete those by year's end. The staff, we reviewed both proposals independently and scored with weighting based on the criteria to select a contractor that would provide the best value to the city. And all the staff that did review these proposals did so independently of one another and unanimously selected the same preferred contractor. The recommendation is that Quesnel City Council approve entering a contract with Terrace Construction Division of Colas Western Canada for the 2025 paving program with options of up to 2 year-by-year mutually agreed upon extensions.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Moved Councillor Runge, seconded Councillor Elliott. Any discussion? Councillor Vic.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Director Coben. The only question I'm just curious about is you've identified how our budget fluctuates from 750,000 to 1.3 million based on our needs for a season. Can you, and I understand there's probably inflationary issues that affect what we're paying going forward, but what was the increase in sort of like a linear meter of paving versus 2023? And I get you do 5-year increments. Is that how we're moving forward?
3 year.
3 years. So what's the increase that we're really paying here versus the prior agreement?
Yeah, so in a nutshell, like there's a number of quantities that we have. So basically for large scale paving, which is like over 150 tons, which is some of our biggest projects, that was the biggest increase, which really, hits hard on the budget. So that's over a 50% increase since 2022. So very substantial. Some of the other items the pricing hasn't increased as much. So basically some of the preparation work like the tack coat and then the smaller paving patches which have a minimum stop. So there's a minimum price. So if you have a utility cut, say that's 4 by 4 meters, we pay one lump sum for that. But the large volume paving is a substantial increase.
Okay, thank you for that. So we have a motion on the floor. Go ahead, Councillor Elliott.
Thank you for the report, but just a little bit outside of that, are you locked in now with the roads that are going to be completed this year, or the projects that are completed?
We've identified a number of candidates. So basically, we have the overlay candidates where we've began to identify. So what we do is we'll take these back, redo them again now that the frost is all out of the ground, because some roads fared better over the winter than others. So if one was up on the list, last fall, it may have actually fared a lot better than some other roads did. So we're whittled that down now. We'll take it back, look at it compared to the 5-year capital plan to make sure that we don't have to, dig up the water line or do any infrastructure projects in the next few years, and then align it with our available overlay budget, and then narrow it down to the roads that we're going to select.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, call the question on the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, the next one is Director of Community Service, Vista Radio Lease.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to obtain council approval to renew the lease agreement with Vista Radio for use of office space on the 5th floor of the City Hall building. Vista Radio has had a lease since 2007 to operate a radio station using approximately 1,876 square feet of office space on the 5th floor of City Hall. The proposed agreement is for a 1-year term and includes a 2% increase over the previous agreement to the base rent. No other significant changes have been made to the proposed lease. The recommendation is that council enter into the attached 1-year lease agreement with Vista Radio for the use of approximately 1,876 square feet of office space on the 5th floor of the City Hall building, and that the mayor and corporate administrator be authorized to execute such documentation as required to complete the agreement.
Okay, moving, Councillor Elliott, you're moving that one, and Councillor Runge is seconding. Any discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Vic.
Thank you, Director Norburn. Is there any reason why it's only a 1-year agreement?
That was just their request, was a 1-year agreement.
Okay, anything else? Councillor Runge.
I guess just adding on to Councillor Vic's comment, if there was any kind of interest and council was okay with this, couldn't we do it 1 year with a chance to, kind of like the paving one, to renew for up to 3 years if they wanted it? Or does this come back every year to council?
Yeah, I mean, we have automatic month-to-month renewal clauses built into all of our agreements generally anyway. This agreement actually expired for a period of time, and we've been extending it on a month-to-month basis. But yeah, that's a possibility. But they did request a one-year agreement, so I think over the course of that year, we can meet with them and talk about the next agreement and potentially a longer term.
Okay, thank you for that. Anything more on that before I call the question? We're moved and seconded. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. The next one is back to the Director of Capital Works and Infrastructure, Baker Creek Water Main Crossing.
Thank you, Mayor. Purpose is to request a budget increase to the Baker Creek Water Crossing Project. The existing water main, which crosses under Baker Creek, it provides water to Healy Street Booster Station, which services all of Uplands. This main under the creek has been compromised and requires renewal due to the creek channel movement and erosion of the bank. Now it's exposed and vulnerable. Preparations to date for this replacement have included archaeology, geotechnical investigation, permitting, temporary bank protection, tree and brush clearing, and completed construction drawings. This project, it was approved for and budgeted for the 2024 season. However, due to the permit window with DFO, Fisheries and Oceans, we could not meet this construction window. As of March of this year, just over $323,000 of the budget remains. So now we have the environmental permitting renewed for the same work window in 2025, and the project has been tendered with bids received. The lowest qualified bid, meeting the conditions of the tender, puts the overall project exceeding the forecasted budget. In addition to the contract award, city costs outside of this general contract include administration, environmental monitoring, and quality control review. This equates with contingency to an additional $97,000 required in order to complete the works. The recommendation is that Quesnel City Council increase the overall project budget for the Baker Creek Water Main Crossing by $97,000 to complete the works with funding coming from water reserves.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Let's have a mover. Moved Councillor Elliott, or pardon me, Councillor Vick, seconded Councillor Elliott. Thank you. I got that one. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, that brings us to the end of our city staff reports. Now we move to council information package and item number 1, which is an update on the Quesnel Foundry project. It looks very positive. They're planning on being operational by 2028, and they've got several advisory committee. They've got a youth advisory committee, a family advisory committee, and they've got a number of upcoming events coming up. And this was asked to be brought forward by Councillor Roodenburg and also by myself. Is there any questions on that? It's certainly a good news item. Okay, so you've got that for your information. So now, just go back to page 1 here, actually page 2. We've already done our bylaws. Pardon me, we have no correspondence. We've done our bylaws. We have no new business. Information and question period. No changes to upcoming meeting schedule. No changes to committee appointments. Anyone with announcement/events? Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a reminder that May is MS Awareness Month, and the MS Walk and Awareness Day is Saturday, May 24th at the Farmers Market from 8:30 till 1. So hope to see everybody there.
Thank you for that, and happy to hear Farmers Market. That is indeed a good sign of spring. Okay, anyone else with any announcements and events? Seeing none, I'll move now to gallery questions. Do we have any people in the gallery that are game to come up and ask a question? Anything you want. Are you serious? Marion, come on up. And just for the record, you just need to say your name and your residential address, please. And press the button there until the red light comes on.
Okay. My name is Marion Gallard. I think everyone knows me. I live at 507-401 on Front Street, so that's the Fraser Village. I'm very happy there. I overlook the trees and I overlook the river. So that's my question. There has been quite a bit of white stuff coming down the river. And to me, I'm concerned because it looks like pollution to me.
It looks like what?
Pollution.
Pollution, okay, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what I was supposed to say was that your question has to be relative to something that is on the agenda, but certainly we will take that under advisement and find out for you, and I'll personally get back to you on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Does it look like foam?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I think that's a sort of an annual occurrence. I don't know what it is, but we'll find out.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Marion. Okay, is there anything more before we adjourn? Nothing, no more questions from the gallery? How about you, Austin? You got to have a question. No? Just answers, right? Okay, so a motion to adjourn then, please. Councillor Vic, Councillor Runge, all in favor, opposed, we stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.